Okay, so I've got our dimensions for the back piece of the background. So at this point you're probably wondering what exactly I am doing, so let me fill you in on this. The typical backgrounds made for Vivaria are made either from expanding foam or polystyrene and are then carved and painted to look like real rock. Now, I don't ever like how these backgrounds look, and as they don't have the properties of real natural materials, I would rather just go straight ahead with using those real natural materials for my build. To do this, I'm using MDF boards as an adapter to attach these materials to the back of the enclosure, which makes building it one heck of a lot easier, but of course you are going to have to cut the MDF so that it'll fit within the Vivarium without covering any of the vents or anything like that, and that is what I am preparing to do here. It's all fairly self-explanatory, so if you just stick with this, you'll see what I mean in a second. Here I'm just painting the MDF black, so that anything which shows up between the wooden rocks in the completed background won't be too obtrusive. Okay guys, it's an hot day and I don't want to be sat in the sun while I'm doing all these jobs with rocks and all that. So what I've done is I've just come out in the side passage, and what we're going to do now is put things together into the background, and this is going to be like the main feature of the Vivarium. So I'm just going to crack on, and I'll probably do some voiceover or something to explain what I'm doing, or I won't if I can't be bothered. We'll see how it ends up. It's just started raining like mad. Well, not like mad. I mean, it's just spitting is what I mean. So I've just ran inside with everything. And I'm now going to carry on the floor. Which will be interesting and probably make a big mess. But oh well. So it's the morning of day 3 of the build project, so I think that now would be quite a good time for me to give you another little update as to where we're actually standing with all this. So this is going to sort of be the centrepiece of the background, like the slate rock stack, and if I just pick it up here, you will see that it does actually stand up on its own already, which is nice. Now, just to illustrate how I constructed this, because it might not be that clear from the videos, you'll see that there were little holes in the slate. Quite easy to make, just with a little sharp bended chisel. And obviously I've just put a washer around it and then put a screw through. I just chose to put the washer so it's distributing the force from the screw over a wider area. So just so that it's not going to crack the slate as I was putting the screw in or whatever. And then that goes through into those bits of wood that are just underneath. And then I have some corner brackets that are just holding them on. I've tried to use 2 corner brackets on every single one, just to make sure that it's stable. This one I actually ran out of the silver ones and I had to get an old piece of my car now, but that's another story. But as you can see, the slate, big bits of slate which are going to form the basking region and the lizards are going to be climbing round on, that is done. So if I just move this down, I will show you what I'm going to get doing today. Just pop that there, and then drag this bucket over. You'll see that I've got, what do you call it, Cotswold stone. I'm going to get these bits, and hopefully without dropping them in this demonstration. Let's get that down there. I'm going to sort of set about putting them at places that I think nice. That's just a random spot at the moment. But putting them throughout here, and I'm going to use, screw some holes into these rocks, put roll plugs into the holes, and then go through the wood at the back to attach them on. And then obviously you'll see there's these little bits, but I do have some slate chippings just there in a dustpan and brush from when I was cracking up this slate yesterday. And I'll glue that onto different places, and that should sort of disguise all of the wood bits. Then it'll go onto the larger black wooden background for the enclosure that I made yesterday, and I'll have more rocks sort of blending into that, and then I'll have some cork bark screwed onto that as well. And then this will, I can't talk this morning. This should sort of form the basic main portion of the enclosure that the lizards will climb up and around and bask on, and then the cork will just be like extra interest to look at and more area for them to walk around on. So it should be good, but it's going to take all day, I think. It's like 7:45 or something in the morning now, and I am probably going to still be here at like 5 o'clock this afternoon, and I don't even know if I'm going to get it finished then, but I'll try my best. So now will be a good time to walk back to time lapse, I think. Okie dokie, so this is where we're up to. On this main bit of the rock portion, I've got screwed on 3 big rocks, plenty more big rocks to go. But as you can see, we're sort of running out of space on this. So what I think I'm going to do is to have a tidy up for a second, because we've got crap everywhere. And then after I've done that, I'm going to get the big black piece of the background, lay that out across the floor, and screw this rock piece onto the centre of it. Now, once it's on the centre of it, I'll know where I'm working for attaching the cork bark to that main bit of background. So what I'll do is I'll attach all the cork background onto it, screw on the bits of rock onto that main portion of background that I feel like. Look, I know what I'm doing, it's hard to explain. I'll just do it and just be able to show you. these two are having a good look at what I'm doing. Usually are. I wonder if the Chinese leopard snakes are as well, actually. They're usually nosy. Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm being watched. So here's the main portion of the background as it stands. It's sort of bending the wood background a bit because it's so heavy. And you can sort of see what I've done with all this gubbins. Anyway, I think that you get the gist of what's going on with this background and what was in my head now. So what I'll probably do is just have a think for a minute, then do what I want to do, and then I'll come back when I'm like adding more stuff to this background or whatever. Haha! So I've received some help from my long-suffering father, and put this in. So you can see it's just held up with a couple of screws, just dotted around the place. Then this we detached and put back on. It's literally only got 2 screws holding it in, but that seems to be enough. Then I've propped it up on a bit of 4x2 and other Heath Robinson gubbins, jury rigged, whatever you want to call it. But obviously this still looks crap. So what I'm going to do, if I can get a rock from the old bucket here, is just go about and be like, I can wedge that in tighter like, but go round with the rocks, wedge them into places and sort of complete the rock stack. Then all like little bits like this, I will put the smaller bits of slate chippings that you saw in the bucket back there, a bit of silicone to help out. I'll give it a wipe down to get the dust off so it'll all stick better, and that should be it for the main background. And then I can start working on the bits to the sides, can't I, Char? Yes, I can. So, here's how we're looking so far. Charles obviously not very happy at how it's looking. He mustn't like it. Do you, buddy? Anyway, what I was going to say is that I've mostly done the rock wall now. As you'll have seen from the time lapse, I actually tried not to use any silicone in this, just to make things movable in future or whatever. And actually it's worked really well, like even bits that are jutting out like this. They're all fairly solid, and I don't think a couple of little lizards are going to be able to knock it. Now I am going to be doing something with putting clay round this, probably tomorrow now, and it'll hold it more in place. But obviously what's left to do is like up round here, I've got a bag of this like cork chips, Pro Rep Decor pack or whatever they bloody call it these days, and I'm going to silicone those round the top. And I've used all the Cotswold stone, but I've got buckets of slate clippings I made yesterday and the green slate that I bought. So I've still got quite a lot left. But for this main central section, that is round about it, I think. Another little update to bring you back up to speed. As it turned out, I did not have enough cork bark proper. I didn't buy enough of it. I've got 2 more pieces that I'm saving for the other side panel. But what I've had to do basically is just improvise. So I had lots of branches bought for the old idea that I was going to do. Where this enclosure's going, I was going to put something else there. And I collected loads of branches for it, and they basically just sat in a pile. So I thought, rather than go and buy more cork bark, I'd just make do with what I've got. And I've just been cutting up the bits of branches and putting them on here. Now, the decor pack of coconut fibre, ignore the charger, that's got nothing to do with it. These little bits of cork bark, I have just begun bunging them in between the straight bits of branch or whatever. In some cases I'm using screws to attach to little bits of cork. In other cases I'm just wedging them in. So for example, let's see if I can just sort of show you. This might not be permanent, but see how there's like a little gap and I've got this little bit of cork here. Well, if I just sort of shove it in, that's not in tight, and I would like to screw that. That's not like a tight fit, but you see what I mean. Just trying to fill most of the black parts in, and then the final bits of black I will cover up with the clay when we come to do that. But that's just where I'm up to for now, and I will complete this, then go and do the other side, show you them both finished on the floor, then we can put them in the enclosure. Day 4. Now this side panel is the one that you saw me making in the time lapses, and that's been put on with screws. There's 1, 2, 3 screws across the top, and there's 2 lower down as well. Now I think you'll agree that actually having the vertical branches put on and the little bits of cork bark wedged in between actually looks fairly decent and breaks up the just continual cork bark look, so I'm quite happy with that. What I've got to finish off this morning is this side panel, which if we come down here past Charles Viv, its lights aren't on yet. I got most of the way with it. There's just some gaps and cracks to fill. I've got more branches and things lying out here, but I'm going to get on with this now. I will put it in here, and then that's the majority of the background done. What I'll do then is I will move on to siliconing, putting the slate chippings around the top to blend it in, and then later on this morning I'm going to go out and buy some like clay substrate, like sort of excavator clay but like cheap, and then do some other bits with that, and that'll be the background done. Okay, so that's the other bit of background done. I'm sorry that I didn't like show you me putting it in, but honestly, it's just me and my dad stood in front of the Viv, and you wouldn't really see anything apart from our backs, so you know, just showing you where the screws have gone in should basically give you the idea. Anyway, now that all this is done, I think you'll agree that the background is looking a bit lacklustre. It's not as detailed as the side bits, and I knew that'd sort of be the case. Now these bits in the bottom corners, don't worry about that, because when we've got the plants in, you're not going to see either of these corners. The plants are going to be coming up here and there, so that'll be disguised. The side panels, I do want to have some climbing plants, maybe some ivy growing up those. So all like the little spaces and whatever, they should be covered. It's just the background I want to keep clear, and that is where the siliconing is going to come in. So what I'm going to do is like silicone the rest of the slate chippings I've got round the edge, and you know, hopefully it should sort of fade it out a bit, and then obviously I will silicone more slate chips onto these bits of wood and whatever, so that it does just all blend in and it should look good. And then finally I will add the clay. The pet shop's not opening for like 2.5 hours, so I'll have to nip down there a bit later. But then just other bits and bobs, I will put the clay around, and that will finally be the background done, hopefully by the end of the day. Okay, it's the afternoon now. I've had something to eat, so I'm not as tired anymore. And I've also nipped the pet shop and got a bag of this stuff. It's like a new product by Exoterra, I think, Stone Desert or whatever. Sonoran Ochre, even though they've got a picture of a Euromastix on the front, which isn't from the Sonoran Desert, but whatever. Basically, this stuff is a bit like Zoomed's excavator clay, only it's the Exoterra version. And what I'll do with it is I'll just mix it up with water and spread it round on the gaps on the background, and hopefully it'll make things all come together and look fairly decent. Well, looks like this is done. As you can see, I've made a little bit of a mess with the clay going all over the spot, but I predicted that'd happen. Once it dries, it's easy enough to get rid of with a hard bristled brush. But just to show you exactly what I've done, just up the top here, you'll see that I've sort of blended things in with more bits of slate and different coloured slates and so on. You'll see where I put those aluminium tubes, which I'm going to explain at some point. I've just marked them out with toothpicks sticking out of them. There's one there, one down here, one over there, one there, and one at the front here. But yeah, basically with that done, that is the background finished. You might notice as well that it does look sort of a bit messy at the moment. There's like different globs and it's sort of untidy on the slate and whatever. But don't worry about that, because again, with the hard bristled brush, I will just sweep off any bits that I don't really want to be there. So as you can gather, this lot has been a couple of days in the making, shall we say. And I'm reasonably happy with it. I think it should turn out alright. I'll just get those bits off that I don't want with the brush. But for you to see that, you are going to have to stick around until the next episode, because this one's probably gone on for way too long already, and I want to crack on with doing the electrics in this enclosure now. Which means that this is the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!